I'm going to walk through a couple of options here for searching for specific USGS data, perhaps thinking about what will meet the requirements for the term project. So under this current conditions, if you go into water quality there, then there are pretty easy, obvious options for continuous data sets for nitrate or turbidity, but the number of choices is somewhat limited there. And so you can explore these possibilities, but I'll show you another option. Navigating again to the NWIS page, National Water Information System, you come to this page and we're going to go into water quality and to the field and lab samples, and there are a number of ways you can add search filters here to get to something you're interested in. If you care about your state specifically, you could go that way. I'm going to use hydrologic region here, which is the first two digits of the HUC. And then you can do a site name, which I'm going to go ahead and do so I could show you how that works. And then I'm going to put in a criteria for a number of observations, a period of record, and parameter groupings. Another option you could think about is parameter codes, but that one's a little bit funny because this is what the nutrient parameter code list looks like, for instance, and there's so many different codes for the same things, because for Kaldal nitrogen, for instance, or for phosphorus, because there are so many different ways to do the analysis on that, that you would have to have a pretty comprehensive list of codes to get at all of the data. So the grouping, the parameter groupings is probably a more effective way to go. And so I've selected these filter criteria, and I'm going to submit that. And depending on what is going on with your connection and web traffic, it could take a little bit. So I'm going to search specifically for the Yellowstone River, and there's a lot of sites that are going to be on the Yellowstone, and all of them should have Yellowstone someplace in their name. So I'm going to say match any part of the site name. So you could do that with any river if you were interested in a river and not a specific state or a hydrologic basin. So I'm going to choose the Missouri region, which the Yellowstone is in. I could just do Yellowstone and not have done the hydrologic region, or I could just do the hydrologic region without. I'm going to put in a minimum of 10 observations, and there's something strange with that I'll talk about in just a second. But I want data that is starting in 2010, maybe with I'll say the October 1st of 2010, so the start of the 2011 water year. So I'm going to go for fairly recent data, and I'm going to say that I'm interested in nutrients. So Yellowstone River, relatively new data for nutrients is what I am thinking I want to do my term project on. So I'm going to submit that, and it comes up with 3 possibilities for me. So this is kind of cool where I can actually, so I asked for recent data, but it gives you the full summary for the sites. And so I can filter these by oldest or newest beginning date, oldest or newest end date, and number of samples. For this list of 3, that's not that useful, but if you did a more broad search, you could come up with hundreds of sites. And then this filter or sort by the number of samples is a really useful thing to do, because you might want to start looking at the sites that have more samples first. And so I'm going to now, I'm going to click and open that in a new tab, that first site, and so it pops up here. One reason to do that is that I can quickly then just go back to my search and look at other sites without having to go back through the search process again. So that site for the Yellowstone near Sidney, Montana, I want to look and see, I need to add in a date range here again. And so you can click on it and select dates, but I find that to be a little bit slow. So I've actually put the date range that I'm interested in here and typed it in a Word doc, and I'm just going to copy paste that and copy paste. If you're doing this a number of times, that might be faster for you. So I didn't save that. Let's see, paste that in there again. And so I'm looking now at the 2014 water year is the data that I'm retrieving. And so I ask for sites in this list that have data since 2010, but now it's giving me the site list, and I have all of the data here for this site. So I just want to quickly look and see if for this 1 year that I'm interested in doing my term project for, if it's got the data I want. So I'm going to look at the data in a table format and pull that up. And it's going to bring up this table, and at first it's got this kind of ugly format, but then after a second it will load and change them to a more readable format. And I've got quite a few samples. So this is now just the samples from the 2014 water year, and then across the top are all the parameters. And so I said I was interested in nutrients, so I got to scroll across and look for nutrients. There's total nitrogen, a couple of different versions. So these are all those different parameters I was talking about. And so there's total nitrogen in a couple of different, there's filtered and unfiltered, ammonium, nitrite. Nitrate is interesting also for nutrients. So if I just look at one of these columns for nutrients, I can scan down and see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 11 there for that water year, and the requirement for the term project said that you needed 8. So this data set would meet the requirements from that perspective. And so then you could come back up, and this was just a quick way to view it, but you can output it in tab separated format. So I can click on this export data in tab format, and then come into here, and then again save page as, and save it as a text file. So that is one possible site that I just found that kind of meets my interest criteria. I'm going to back up here and do a slightly more general search. I'm going to say that I'm still interested in a hydrologic region, number of observations, period of record, and parameter groupings. So submit that. And this time I'm not going to put in the Yellowstone specifically. I am still interested in staying in the Missouri. I could put in a higher number of minimum observations, and I might recommend doing that actually. Let's see, so I'm just going to go back and just quickly put in a 2010 date. I just want to pull relatively recent data, and let's say that I'm interested instead in sediment. And so submit that, show me those sites. So this example brings up a lot more sites, 237 sites found. And so this is when these sort functions can be pretty useful. If you want to sort, so again, the number of samples is a pretty useful way to sort. And look at the ones that are higher in number of samples, because you'll be working with more data is going to be nicer. And so I might go down and say, oh, the Platte, I'm interested in the Platte River. It's got 700 and some samples. That's great. I'm going to open that up. And so my criteria was that it had some new data, it had more than 10 samples, and that it had some sediment data. But now I want to pull up, I want to pull up specifically the 2014. So I'm going to bring back up my quick cheater here and say that I'm going from October 1st, 2013 to September 30th, 2014. So again, that 2014 water year. I'm going to submit that. And so the value of putting those date criteria on there is that when this pops up, it only gives me those samples within that water year. So I know now that as I'm looking at these counts of samples that they are within the year that I'm interested in. And so as I'm scrolling across, and this time I said I was interested in sediment, so there are a lot of parameters at this site. And scrolled across and looked for suspended sediment concentration and found it here, and I can see that there are in fact more than 8 measurements for that water year. So this would work for me if I was interested in the South Platte. So that's just one option. You can, and back out here again, if you go back into parameter groupings, work by state if you like, or again by river name. The other option here is metals, which is something that a lot of streams might be contaminated with, or microbiological. So you can search by these other parameter categories as well, parameter groupings. So hopefully that gives you some strategies for finding a data set that's interesting to you.